Hello world, Satonic here. Let's jump right into today's hacking news roundup. First up, Spotify might seem like an unlikely place to spread malware, but that's the latest innovation of the cybercriminal underworld. Spotify podcasts and playlists are being abused by cybercriminals to spread pirated software containing hidden nasty surprises. It's not that people are searching for cracked versions of Sony Vegas within the actual Spotify app, but rather Spotify has a browser-based web player which just so happens to be indexed by search engines. And as far as Google is concerned, Spotify has a pretty good reputation, so if the right keywords are included in a Spotify playlist or podcast, there's a good chance it'll be SEO'd to the first page of Google for when someone searches for a cracked version of that particular software. Then the actual podcast audio, which is just AI-generated nonsense, points people to the link in the description. In this case, it's not pirated software, but rather some dodgy trading bot. I don't know who sees a link in a Spotify podcast to a trading bot and thinks, well hey, there's a reputable tool I should put in control of my life savings, but I guess that's the world we live in. Since this got a bit of internet attention, it does look like Spotify has had a bit of a clear out, though it's not just Spotify. Amazon Music has a similar problem, and I realise it's not exactly the most groundbreaking cybercriminal invention ever, though as is often the case, this is more a matter of protecting your boomers. I do find it fascinating how cybercriminals manage to repurpose legit services for their evil schemes. I saw a comment from someone saying how this reminds them of Russians hiding their command and control servers in Britney Spears' Instagram posts, and that is an interesting story. ESET researchers documented this in 2017. If you take what looks like an unremarkable comment on a Britney Spears Instagram post and run it through a particular regular expression, you get a link to a server used by Russian state hackers to control malware. And this isn't just a silly proof of concept. Every so often, for one reason or another, servers used by bad actors to control malware gets taken down, leaving the malware without anyone to give it instructions. Hackers need a way to regain control of their malware, and in this case, the malware was programmed to check a particular Instagram photo and run each comment against a custom hash function. If it matches a hard-coded number, the malware knows that this comment was left by its owners and contains a hidden link to the latest command and control server, allowing the malware's owners to regain control of it. Do you guys know of any other creative examples of hackers using legit platforms for evil? Let me know down in those comments. But before you do that, I need to tell you about today's sponsor, DeleteMe, the guys who help you take back control of your personal information from the notoriously shady industry that is data brokers. These guys spend their time scraping the web for your personal information, building a profile on you which contains a whole array of sensitive data. Then they sell those profiles to, well, could be anyone. Quite often it's just some rando who's willing to stump up a couple bucks on one of those person search websites. But what really worries me is how data brokers could be used to enable doxing or even SIM swapping. But the good news is, there is a solution. It's called DeleteMe, and it works like this. Just complete a quick profile so DeleteMe know what to look for, then within 7 days they'll compile a personalized report detailing which data brokers have your data, and best of all, they'll request removal of your data on your behalf. So long as you're a member, DeleteMe will continually check in on data brokers and create a new report every couple months. DeleteMe is giving you guys 20% off their eligible plans with my link in the description. DeleteMe is also international, serving a dozen countries. Just make sure to click the correct link in the description to take back control of your data today. Next up, a dumb hacker did some dumb things, got caught and is now facing years in prison. It's a common setup for a story on this channel, but if you thought you'd seen it all, one guy from Montana is about to take the proverbial cake. Allegedly, of course. Court documents describe how one Nicholas Michael Kloster was seemingly looking for work as a pen tester and figured the best way to advertise his services was to hack first, then get hired later. His first victim, identified as Victim 2, was a gym, and just before midnight earlier this year, Kloster allegedly gained physical access to the gym. Court documents don't say what mischief he got up to that night, but the following morning he sent an email to the gym's owner explaining that not only had he gained unauthorized access to security cameras, but also the company's Google Fiber router settings, which allowed him to explore the contents of the gym's user accounts. He ended his email with what looks like a sales pitch. If I can reach the files on a user's computer, it indicates potential for deeper system access. He then claimed to have helped many local businesses in the area and even included a copy of his resume for good measure. Whilst the gym's employees were no doubt trying to make sense of his grey hat activities, they noticed his membership fee in their system was reduced to just $1. His photograph had been erased from the gym's network, and he also allegedly stole a staff member's name tag. But Kloster didn't seem to realise just how much trouble he was in, because a couple weeks later he posted a screen cap to social media showing that he was still in control of the gym's security cameras with the caption, "How to get a company to use your security service." But Kloster wasn't done. He seems to have given up on being hired by the gym and found a new target, Victim 3. They're a non-profit based in Missouri, and just like before, he allegedly gained unauthorized physical access to their office. Court documents describe how he used a boot disk to gain access to one of their computers. Something like this perhaps, a noob-friendly tool that you can boot from and use to change the passwords of Windows user accounts. And just as a side note, this whole time he was employed by a totally different company and is alleged to have used a company credit card to make unauthorized purchases, including a thumb drive which was advertised as a means to hack into vulnerable computers. Could it be the same boot disk he used to hack into Victim 3? Either way, after using his boot disk to change passwords, he allegedly installed a VPN on the computer, which of course would have allowed him to access it remotely. But we don't know if this company received a sales pitch just like the gym did. Regardless, Victim 3 sustained thousands of dollars in losses. Not that changing a couple passwords back and uninstalling a VPN cost that much to resolve, but they likely had to hire an external company to run an audit of their entire network to figure out what else the guy might have messed with, and that doesn't come cheap. Kloster's trial is set for April 1st next year, reflecting what a fool the guy is. Allegedly, of course. For our next story, police in Thailand have disrupted a cybercrime gang that was using some serious SMS blasting equipment to send millions of spammy text messages. Police released a video of them arresting the gang members who were driving up and down a notoriously busy street in Bangkok with this monster of a rig in the back of their car. An 8 kilowatt power supply was powering fake mobile base stations, which mimicked the identifiers of legit cell towers belonging to Thailand's largest cell network, AIS. These fake base stations often work by downgrading 4G or 5G cell connections to a legacy technology which doesn't require so much authentication. They also easily overpower the signal of legit cell towers in the area, forcing nearby mobile phones to connect to them, which in this case resulted in the victims receiving an SMS letting them know they were apparently the beneficiary of a bunch of points, which they could then redeem through their cell carrier for prizes, which was of course a bit of a lie. This kind of attack can be quite effective because fake base stations operate independently of cell networks. In other words, they don't need SIM cards, you don't need to socially engineer anyone at the cell carrier, just acquiring the equipment is all you need. Over the course of 3 days, the scammers were able to send almost 1 million scam text messages. That is, before Thai police cottoned on, sending out their aptly named cyber police with spectrum analyzers to tail and catch the scammers. SMS scams in particular are quite a big problem in Southeast Asia. A UN report shows how every few weeks it seems police seize mountains of equipment, which you might notice often include Starlink dishes. That's because these kinds of gangs like to base their other operations in remote areas away from prying eyes. For example, the same gang that was SMS blasting was also abusing SIP trunking services. These kinds of services are essentially enterprise-level VoIP calling products, allowing companies to ditch traditional phone lines and make phone calls over the internet. In this case, the scammers were able to set up 3 fake companies, register thousands of phone numbers, which in total were used to make almost 1 billion scam phone calls. In what police are calling Operation Bridge Blast, they managed to make 10 arrests and turn the whole thing into a nice little day out for local media outlets. But that's it for this video. As always, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.